All right, Ren is premiering a new song today called CIde. Hopefully YouTube won't block this video because I said that in the first 10 seconds. But anyway, let's check it out. Soundscape.
Falling through the cracks of the night sky. A light goes out on the other side. Suicide, suicide, suicide. Treading on the tracks in the night time. It never really felt like the right time. Suicide, suicide, suicide. I'm so fucking lonely beneath this. Narcissistic, can't keep a secret. Miscount sheep, I can't sleep, a misfit. Some say trouble, but some say sadistic. Bruises my brother, one time or the other. My skin felt counterfeit, silicone rubber. Bruises my sister, skin pop the blister. Dig deep, resist the feeling when it hits you. Falling through the cracks of the night sky. A light goes out on the other side. Suicide, suicide, suicide. Treading on the tracks in the night time. It never really felt like the right time. Suicide, suicide, suicide. Sick boy, bitten by a tech boy. I feel like it's not me, it's the world that's sick.
Every time I watch a Ren video, it makes me think about something that I normally don't think about very often. The subject matter reminds me of 21 Pilots a little bit, talking about really serious subjects. And this is something that it's important to think about because you never know who's dealing with stuff behind the scenes that we may never even realize, and you know how broken people are when you don't even know it, and something that it's really hard to come to terms with. I'm so glad someone's willing to talk about this stuff because I'll admit I've been too nervous to talk about stuff like this, too scared because it's such a heavy topic, and you know, dealt with people close to me in my life that have had these types of issues that are really hard to deal with and come to terms with. And just to give a little context on why I mentioned that, when I was, I think 11 years old or so, we were woken up in the middle of the night by a phone call, and it was my brother-in-law calling to say that my sister was in the hospital. She had tried to take her life with alcohol and pills, and that was something she'd struggled with for a long time that I didn't know about until this day when we got that call. And thankfully she survived and it didn't take her life. But it definitely was a wake-up call to me because my parents really didn't tell me any of the serious stuff that was going on in our family because I was young, which I understand, but I had no idea. And all of a sudden I'm like, holy crap, this is it was probably one of the heaviest things I'd ever experienced at that time, and had a big impact on me, and constantly worrying about losing my sister. And I can't imagine living after one of my loved ones did go through with it and, took their life. I was inspired by Ren because he opened up so much about what inspired this song and was honest, and I have a hard time with that, actually opening up and talking about things that I struggle with because I don't want to sound like I'm complaining. But I know in the long run it's good to relate to people and let other people know they're not alone. Thank you, Ren, for being so real and open and honest. It's hard to know what to do. It's hard to know how to feel and how to help. But I'm sure that a lot of people can relate to this music and really, find comfort in knowing someone can relate to them and understand, All right, I'll shut up now.
I'm so fucking washed up and seasick. Masochistic kid with a split lip. 6 feet deep, I can't eat, I'm nervous. Won't stay down cause my body purges. Useless my mother, can't keep in my supper. Skin so pale cause my cheeks leak colour. Truth is my father, you choose your karma. Draw for the sword, then drive through the armour. Falling through the cracks of the night sky. A light goes out on the other side. Suicide. suicide, suicide, suicide. Oh, I, treading on the tracks in the night time. It never really felt like the right time. Suicide, suicide, suicide. Suicide, suicide, suicide. Suicide, suicide, suicide. Suicide, suicide, suicide. Suicide, suicide, suicide.
It's hard to take off from the ground when your wings are cut. Your stomach burns when you're drinking from an empty cup. You know the entire ocean came from my tear ducts. I see the world through Fibonacci sequences and double Dutch. I guess there's some that's born lucky, there's some that's not. I tried to cut away my bitterness, hatchet job. I locked my youth inside a trunk, inside a pickup truck, then dumped the whole thing over that same bridge the night you jumped. I think about that sometimes, vividly. What it felt like to look down and see tranquility. One sudden movement in a world of possibility. Only one movement to expose our fragility. I fucking miss you, and I miss myself. I miss thinking we were indestructible as well. I miss chilling by the pier cave and kicking back with Callum, Hugo, Sager, Justin, Stevie and the fucking lads. I miss missing that. I numb myself to close the gap. I never even call them up. The distance is my plaster cast. The truth is to the day you jumped, my childhood jumped too. But I still can't find that anger. All I find is missing you, man, I miss you. With all my rhymes, I picture running 5 minutes quicker, I'm right on time. I picture pulling you back over the edge and then we're crying, and holding you, my brother, and telling you that it's fine. Not the way that it worked, cause I was late like a jerk. There's not a day where I could find a way to break from the hurt. Your body missing, so we never got to wave to the hearse. I hope you're listening, I love you, man, I miss you absurd, fuck.
Oh my gosh. The way that ends, you know, the perspective of someone that goes through this. And I want to go through the inspiration behind this song after, because Ren pinned a comment that kind of describes the backstory, but just seeing it from the perspective of a loved one or a friend that, you know, watches someone they love do this and almost blame themselves, like, what could I have done differently to make this not happen, which is totally not their fault in any way, but we do that to ourselves sometimes, I feel like. And that those last few lines really resonated with me, because it's so easy to do when you lose someone you love in this way, and you're like, what could I have done to do differently? Or what could I have done differently to make this not happen? And, you know, it's something you can't really think about, can't pin on yourself, but it's such a real emotion. And I love that Ren, you know, breaking into tears while recording this. And it was just such a real, raw, emotional performance there, that last bit. The song as well was beautiful. It created a beautiful soundscape, cool lead stuff, but the core of the song, the core of what I appreciate about Ren is his compassion and his passion for the music, really saying something important with the time that we're listening to him. So he talks about the story behind the song. His friend Joe's birthday was on the 1st of June. They met when they were 8 years old. They were childhood friends. He ended up becoming one of my best friends. He was there when we stole our first cigarettes out of his mom's pack. I'm sorry, not mom's pack. Way too young. He was there when I had my first kiss with a girl twice my size on the back of the 42 bus. He was there when I got so drunk I threw up in the woods after drinking as much White Lightning cider as we could. I was there when he did his first backflip on skates, saw him do a 720 off the pier cave. That moment became legendary. So they grew up together. They really shared a lot of important, formative moments. Says he was the funny one, make us laugh till it hurt. No one had a bad word to say about him. It was impossible not to like him. Usually we'd put celebrities, athletes, actors on pedestals, turn them into role models, and admire them from afar. The person I admired was Joe. Him and Sager knew every word to the songs I'd write. We'd get drunk at parties and they'd be singing along as loud as they could. supportive to their friends. It gave me a lot of confidence back then. So, we might not have this music now, or any of the that we have now, if not for the support and love of Joe here. On Christmas Eve 2010, I was sitting in a pub with Joe. He'd been feeling low after a couple of consecutive breakups. He tried to check himself into a mental health outpatient facility a few weeks earlier, but they turned him away because he didn't have an appointment? What? How could that even happen? Like, when someone needs help, you'd think they'd at least refer them somewhere where they could get help right away. He turned to me and said that sometimes he wished he could just walk into the sea and keep walking. He said it in a kind of half-joking throwaway comment type of way, then took a sip of his drink, walked over to the jukebox and put Dig by Incubus on. If I knew that was the last time I'd see Joe, I'd have hugged him, told him how much I loved him, how much I looked up to him, how much we all loved him, and I wouldn't have left that pub. I didn't know that, so I finished my drink, said Happy Christmas, and left. Those last memories that always stick with you. And these comments like that, when someone you love says something like this, sometimes it's a shock, sometimes you just assume they're joking because it's so serious, it's uncomfortable, and you wouldn't think someone you love so much would be serious about that. This continues. 2 nights after Christmas, I got woken up by a phone call at 3 a.m. It was my friend Ella. She told me Joe was on the Menai Bridge, a large suspension bridge connecting the mainland to the Isle of Anglesey. I'm sorry if I'm not saying that right, where we lived. He'd been on the phone to her in tears saying goodbye. He told her to tell everyone he loved them. I pulled on my clothes as fast as I could and started running toward the bridge. It was up a hill. I lived about a 10-minute walk away. I could run it in 5. As I ran, I started dialing and redialing his number. The line was busy, which was a good sign. It meant he was still on the phone to someone. As I got about halfway, the busy tone changed. It told me the line was out of service. I got a sinking feeling and picked up my speed. I arrived to the bridge minutes after I left my house. It was definitely quiet. I was the first person to arrive. I got there probably about 2 minutes too late. Joe's body was never found. Oh, I can't imagine. 2 days ago, he was enjoying drinks with him. Ugh. I'm sorry. Initially, we refused to believe he was gone. The Coast Guard came out that night with boats and helicopters. Me and my friends spent the next 10 days putting up missing posters everywhere we could, walking up and down beaches with flashlights, getting about 3 hours of sleep a night, holding on to hope that maybe he's just, he's okay. When you're walking up and down a beach with a torch, when it's dark, everything looks like a body. We still haven't found Joe. As his birthday came around, I wrote a song, Freckled Angels, a song I dedicated to Joe, which I sang in front of his friends and family. A charity football match was put on for him, raising money for the RNLI, where I won 2 bottles of wine in a raffle. I drank them both as quickly as I could, naturally turned to my friend and probably slurred something along the lines of, "This is the last time I ever drink." That was 12 years ago. I haven't touched a drop of alcohol since. My first album I named Freckled Angels in tribute to one of the best people I ever knew. It's such a sad, terrible story, but I guess at least it had a positive impact. 12 years sober is really impressive. I don't think I could ever do that. Skip forward some years, I'd been sitting on this song I wrote a few years ago. It always felt a little incomplete. It was going to be my next release, but I was dreading it because of this feeling of incompletion. I decided very last minute to do something about it. I sat by my piano, and the rest of the song fell out of me. I hadn't thought about Joe in a while, and the song initially wasn't going to be about him, but the words all fell out of me. That's such an interesting aspect of songwriting when you're writing about something that's so emotionally significant, had such an impact on you, because this happened 12 years ago. So Ren was pretty young. These are some really complex emotions and life changes that you can't process right away. You know, you need time to sit and think about it, see how it affected you, and, you know, just really process it. So, I mean, this is really good for the song because you get this wide perspective of 12 years of processing and, you know, coming to terms with everything. I want to listen to the song one more time too before we finish this up, just with this extra perspective. Skip forward some years. I'd been singing on the song I wrote a few years ago. Oh, I already wrote that. Read that. Sorry. My brain's a little scrambled right now, but it's just such a emotionally impactful song. Okay, all the words fell out of me. I wrote and recorded a whole 2 minutes extra, recording each part as I wrote it. Tears, that's really cool too, that he basically recorded as it was falling out of him, as he was feeling it, because that really came across in the recording. Tears spewing out of my eyes pretty much the whole time, and decided not to do my usual thing of perfecting each line. I just recorded every line as it came. Raw, genuine, authentic emotion. During this campaign, I'll be raising money for the RNLI, the group of brave men and women who spent hours tirelessly looking for Joe after the night he went missing. Really important, selfless people. I'll also be donating 50% of the profit on all copies of the Freckled Angels album directly to Joe's family as a nice surprise gift. I'll include links to the RNLI donation page below, where 100% of the money will go to support them. I'll be traveling to the UK later this month to make a music video and have carved out a couple of days where I will travel to my hometown on the Isle of Anglesey. Again, I'm sorry if I'm not saying that right. I'll figure it out. To present the Royal National Lifeboat Institution with a check of all the money raised. Wow. Just look at this impact, though, that Joe had, helping influence this artist who is just so genuine and so real, that was able to create this, this community of people who appreciate that raw realness, and then use the contact with that community to help, raise funding for these important organizations that help people. And, that's a huge impact that Joe had. But I want to hear this song one more time, really let it sink in. And of course, YouTube has to make it as difficult as possible.
The cracks of the night sky, a light goes out on the other side. Suicide, suicide, suicide.
I want to point out that the art video style is really cool. I have no idea how he did that, which as a videographer is impressive when you can stump me for how you made a video, but that's pretty cool.
Light goes out on the other side. Suicide, suicide, suicide. Treading on the tracks in the night time. It never really felt like the right time. Suicide, suicide, suicide. I'm so fucking lonely beneath this. Narcissistic, can't keep a secret. Miscount sheep, but can't sleep, a misfit. Some say trouble, but some say sadistic. Bruises my brother, one time or the other. My skin felt counterfeit. Silicone rubber. Bruises my sister, skin pop the blister. Dig deep, resist the feeling when it hits you. Falling through the cracks of the night sky. A light goes out on the other side. Suicide, suicide, suicide.
Interesting how it also referenced, there's a bunch of skulls turning to faces. This is some heavy artwork too. But interesting how it references the way other people view you when you're dealing with this kind of stuff. Trouble, sadistic. It's so impossible to understand the thought process that goes behind these things because it's so sad, it's unnatural, you should want to live, but these people are so broken inside. They've dealt with so much, and it's, I don't know. It's just like, for someone to get to that point, they've got to be in a really dark place, and that they need help. They're sick, and it's not, it's not anything to do with their character. It's just how much pain they're feeling.
Bruises my brother, one time or the other. My skin felt counterfeit, silicone rubber. Bruises my sister, skin pop the blister. Dig deep, resist the feeling when it hits you. Oh, I, falling through the cracks of the night sky. A light goes out on the other side. Suicide, suicide, suicide. Oh, I, treading on the tracks in the night time. It never really felt like the right time. Suicide, suicide, suicide. Sick boy, bitten by a tech boy. I feel like it's not me, it's the world that's sick. I'm so fucking washed up and seasick. Masochistic kid with a split lip. 6 feet deep, I can't eat, I'm nervous. Won't stay down cause my body purges. Useless my mother, can't keep in my supper. Skin so pale cause my cheeks leak colour. Truth is my father, you choose your karma. Draw for the sword, then drive through the armour. Falling through the cracks of the night sky. A light goes out on the other side. Suicide, suicide, suicide. Oh, I, treading on the tracks in the night time. It never really felt like the right time. Suicide, suicide, suicide. Suicide, suicide, suicide.
That's a really interesting synth sound there. Is it blended with a voice in the right ear? It has a really unique sound to it. The sound design in this song is really cool.
Suicide, suicide, suicide.
Atmospheric.
Suicide, suicide, suicide. Suicide, suicide, suicide.
It's hard to take off from the ground when your wings are cut. Your stomach burns when you're drinking from an empty cup. You know the entire ocean came from my tear ducts. I see the world through Fibonacci sequences and double Dutch. I guess there's some that's born lucky, there's some that's not. I tried to cut away my bitterness, hatchet job. I locked my youth inside a trunk, inside a pickup truck, then dumped the whole thing over that same bridge the night you jumped. I think about that sometimes, vividly. What it felt like to look down and see tranquility. One sudden movement in a world of possibility. Only one movement to expose our fragility. I fucking miss you, and I miss myself. I miss thinking we were indestructible as well. I miss chilling by the pier cave and kicking back with Callum, Hugo, Sager, Justin, Stevie and the fucking lads. I miss missing that. I numb myself to close the gap. I never even call them up. The distance is my plaster cast. The truth is that the day you jumped, my childhood jumped too. But I still can't find that anger. All I find is missing you, man, I miss you. With all my rhymes, I picture running 5 minutes quicker, I'm right on time. I picture pulling you back over the edge and then we're crying, and holding you, my brother, and telling you that it's fine. Not the way that it worked, cause I was late like a jerk. There's not a day where I could find a way to break from the hurt. Your body missing, so we never got to wave to the hearse. I hope you're listening, I love you, man, I miss you absurd. Fuck.
There's so much meaning packed into this and emotion. When you talked about his childhood going over the bridge with him, like, that's so sad. It's such a traumatic thing to experience as a child, especially when he was so close to, being there for him. Wow. This makes me appreciate Ren even more, and I really need to catch up on his older music. If anything I could take from this video, it's just be kind and compassionate to people you don't know, because you never know what people are dealing with. It seems like in this world, people are just so quick to take sides, to jump down each other's throats over stuff. You never know what people are dealing with, why they're acting the way they are that day. But if you can have a positive influence on people's life, if you have the strength to do that day, I think that's something to really make an effort to do, is just trying to have a positive impact on everyone you come into contact with. At least that's what I get from this video. So anyway, thank you for watching. I know this was a really long reaction, but I really wanted to understand what's behind this song. And if you do enjoy this song and stuff like this, and you haven't heard 21 Pilots, like Neon Gravestones and a lot of early stuff like on the Vessel album and the self-titled album 21 Pilots, there's just, Tyler Joseph really talks about this stuff and opens up about the struggles of it, and he is also a really great artist. I know when a band is popping on the radio, it's easy to just see them for the hits, the ones that came on the radio, and then decide you don't want to listen to them. But their deep tracks are so worth the time to listen to it. So anyway, thank you for hanging out with me this time. And thank you, Ren, for being a voice for both sides of this. People who are suffering both from these types of thoughts and struggles and the people who are affected by losing loved ones to this. Anyway, that's where I'm going to wrap this up. So thanks for watching. I'll talk to you next time.